Hello, Aries. Today, I'm not here to tell you something easy to hear. I'm here to share with you a truth the universe has been whispering, quietly, deeply, into the chambers of your heart. For a very long time, someone is preparing to leave, and that death will hurt you. It will change you, but one day you'll look back and quietly thank the heavens for that very moment of loss. Because when a soul is about to cross over from this world, the universe always sends a message, soft, gentle, but powerful enough to awaken the spirit within you. And if you're feeling something stirring, a vague knowing in your chest, then maybe, just maybe, you're already ready to hear it. Now, let me take you to the first sacred moment, a whisper before the storm, where destiny begins to tremble inside the dreams you've never dared to remember. When you sit still in the dark, long enough without turning on the lights, sometimes you'll hear a whisper, thin, unclear where it's coming from, but somehow your heart reacts. It's like the wind brushing through a forest that's been asleep for centuries, soft but impossible to ignore. That morning, I laid out my cards like I always do. A familiar ritual, a quiet moment I've repeated thousands of times in my life, to connect with something greater than us. But this time, something was different. As I drew the first card, my hand trembled, just slightly. It felt like I had touched a memory from lifetimes ago. My heart skipped a beat. The air thickened as if hundreds of silent souls had gathered behind me, breathing one long, slow breath together. And in that moment, I understood. A sacred message wanted to speak. Dear Aries, you didn't come here today by accident, because the universe never sends a message like this to someone who isn't ready to receive it. And what's coming is not just a loss, it's a sacred initiation, a whisper from the realm of light, reaching gently into your present. I saw the figure of a soul preparing to leave, not a stranger, but someone your soul has once touched through a glance, a warm hand, a voice from your childhood. It could be a grandfather, a grandmother, a mother, a father, maybe a teacher, someone who once quietly placed their hand on your back when you were about to fall apart. Someone who was always there, but you were too busy to notice. Their departure is not the end. It's a powerful turning point, not just for them, but for you. Have you noticed lately? The dreams, the ones that feel more real than your waking hours, where someone's eyes are watching you. Softly, lovingly, you wake up, heart racing, chest tight, tears falling, and you don't know why. That's not your imagination. That's your soul picking up on the frequency of farewell, a farewell that isn't about leaving, but about opening the door to a new chapter. And if, as you hear these words, a chill runs down your spine, maybe you already know who that soul is. Aries, you are strong, but strength doesn't mean you don't feel. Beneath the armor, you carry a burning heart. And that's why this loss, you won't just cry through it. You'll be transformed by it. This departure will awaken parts of you you've never touched before. It's like a night storm, washing away the noise, the routine, the doubts, so you can finally hear your own heartbeat again. And when you sit down in that stillness, you'll see, death doesn't take anything from you. It simply changes form. It transforms pure love into something new, gentler, deeper, and everywhere at once. In the wind, in the late afternoon sun, in the eyes of a stranger who looks at you for 1 second. And suddenly you want to cry, but you don't know why. In that moment, you'll understand the message I'm sharing with you today is a doorway opened by a soul from far beyond this world. They're not leaving you. They are becoming your invisible guardian, a guide who needs no words. And you may begin to wonder, did they leave something behind? Something they never got to say? Some spiritual gift still waiting for you to find? Not everything is handed to us. Some gifts come through a look, a memory, an unopened letter, or a secret buried in an old house. And so we walk forward, because behind this farewell, there is more than grief. There's a silent legacy, a promise, an intuition, a lesson that's never been spoken out loud. And that soul, they are asking me to help you find it. You're still here, Aries, but the person you were is about to step into a journey that has no way back, a journey to find yourself again, through the love you thought you lost. And I'll be right here with you as we open the next sacred gate together. Not everyone who holds your life together walks in the light. Some people live like shadows, gentle, quiet, placing bricks behind every step you take, yet never once asking to be seen? Do you remember the first person who held your shoulders tightly when you cried over something no one else noticed? Who silently made a warm cup of tea, left it at your door, and walked away, not even checking if you drank it? Who looked at you with complete faith, even when you hadn't learned to believe in yourself yet? That person is the one I'm talking about today. They weren't the center of your memories, not someone you often name when you list the important people in your life, but they were the deep roots in your journey, the foundation beneath your feet, without which you may not have stood so firmly until now. Maybe it was your grandmother, quietly chewing betel leaves on the porch, watching you walk out the gate every morning. Maybe it was a mother who didn't give birth to you, but spent her whole life saving every coin, sewing every shirt, cooking every meal for you. Maybe it was a quiet father who didn't speak much but always knew how to bandage your wounds without making you cry. Maybe it was a teacher, the one who believed you could write, even when your story made no sense to anyone else. People like this don't do grand things. They simply love in their own quiet way, a love without noise, without shape, but it seeps into your skin, like sunlight into your clothes, like the lingering scent of wood smoke on an old scarf. You might not remember the last time they hugged you, but you will never forget how safe you felt in their presence. And the strange thing is, sometimes it takes losing them, or almost losing them, to finally hear their voice echo in your soul, to realize all the sacrifices they made were to keep you whole, to make sure you could live your own life without the same trade-offs they had to make. And as death quietly approaches them, they don't panic, they prepare, gently, peacefully, as if they already know. Real love doesn't need to stay in a body. It transforms, becomes wind, an old song, a soft light at sunrise, and they'll be there even if you can't see them whenever you need them. That's when you'll understand. Their hug wasn't just a hug, it carried their youth, their sleepless nights, their unspoken dreams all wrapped up and passed to you, so you could go further than they ever could. There are loves like that. You only see them clearly when they are about to leave your life. And then suddenly, the memories flood in. The faded eyes still warm, the trembling voice offering advice about the smallest things, the thin hand placed over yours, passing along one final trust. That's when you realize you never truly said thank you, never asked if they were tired, lonely, or if they had ever wished someone truly saw them. But you also know they weren't waiting for that. They just wanted you to live fully, bravely, without fear. They wanted you to rise from the very places where they once fell, because that kind of love doesn't try to keep you, it frees you from the limits you once believed you had. And when you hear the distant sound of church bells, see sunlight quietly touching the window, or pass a stranger whose walk feels hauntingly familiar, pause. That might be them, reminding you, I'm still here. I never forgot you. In that moment, you are no longer someone who just lost a person. You become someone who is carrying that love forward in the way you live, in the way you care for others, in the way you believe in things you can't quite see. And when the light inside you starts to flicker again, just a small, warm pulse, in the middle of the night, that's when you're ready to step into something sacred. A door will open, not into death, but into a new beginning, where love is no longer limited by the body, but moves soul to soul. And from far, far away, they're still watching over you. They're still here, but now they've placed in your hands something even more important than memory, a mission, one that you will only understand when your heart is truly still. Not every door that closes means the end. Some doors, when they quietly shut, actually open a path inward, where light begins to seep into the deepest shadows of your soul. Dear Aries, you are stronger than you've ever believed, but you are also more sensitive than you've ever allowed yourself to feel. That's why, when a soul departs, you don't just feel the emptiness outside. You feel something shift within, a quiet quake, not loud, not violent, but deep enough to restructure your spirit. You'll begin to notice strange things, subtle signs no one else seems to feel. Dreams so vivid, you could describe every glance, every breath. These dreams aren't just memories, they are the last conversations between your soul and the one who's slowly leaving this world. You may wake one morning with a tightness in your chest, tears on your face and no explanation, only the fading image of holding someone close, just before they dissolve into light. Then, in the middle of an ordinary day, a familiar song plays in a cafe, and your heart goes still. A book falls from the shelf and opens to the very line you needed to hear. An object long lost reappears before you like a message you can't ignore. Don't dismiss it. Don't try to explain it. This is the language of the soul. This is the universe whispering. This departure doesn't take love away, it transforms it. In Buddhist teachings, death is not an end, it's a doorway into a different form of existence, one that's not bound by the body, but carried by energy, by karmic connection, by the unseen threads, linking souls across lifetimes. In astrology, every loss is a waning moon making way for the full, every ending is an opening, and when someone who loved you deeply leaves this realm, they don't disappear. They leave a part of their energy within you. Have you ever thought that who you are today was built in part by them? And now, as they leave the physical world, that part inside you doesn't die. It begins to awaken. You'll feel a pull to change something in your life, a dream you delayed, a road you were once afraid to take, a forgiveness you never dared speak. What seems like loss becomes the first beam of light on your healing path, because peace isn't the absence of pain. Peace is standing in the heart of pain and saying, I see you, I accept you, and I will turn you into light. Rebirth doesn't happen in an instant. It happens over days, in the way you allow sadness to move through you, without suppressing it, in the way you quietly remember them without needing anyone to see, in the way you begin to love life again, not because it's easy, but because you now know how sacred every breath truly is, and slowly, life won't look the same. You'll find beauty in the smallest things, a ray of sun through the window, a bird call at dawn, a hug that says everything, without a word. That's when you'll understand. This death wasn't here to separate you. It came to connect you to your truest self, and like a river that changes course, after the flood, you will begin to shift, not to become someone else, but to finally return to who you were always meant to be. This is the moment your soul begins to open its eyes. You no longer wait for someone to rescue you. You begin to walk as someone who can hold the light for others, because in truth, a part of you was reborn in that loss. And as you take your next step forward, you are no longer walking alone. You carry a soul with you now, no longer seen but never gone, a love with no form but one that now becomes the compass of your spirit, guiding you to the place you've been unknowingly trying to return to all along. Not every precious gift comes wrapped in beautiful paper and tied with a ribbon. Sometimes they arrive in worn shapes, a notebook yellowed with time, a letter folded over and over again, or a small box with a rusty lock. And sometimes they arrive hand in hand with pain. Aries, one day you may receive something, a book, a scarf, a string of old prayer beads. You'll open it with a feeling both familiar and strange, as if it's speaking a message you can't quite understand yet. But your heart will know this isn't just an object. It's a piece of the soul of the one who left it, a fragment of the love they once lived and held back, waiting for the right moment, the moment you're finally ready to receive it. You'll see handwriting smudged by tears or time, a poem, a warning, a secret. Maybe you'll find a letter they wrote to you long ago but never sent. And when you read it, every word will touch the deepest part of you, breaking open layers of stone that built up over years of silence. An apology, a thank you, a love never spoken. These things are the spiritual compass they've left behind, not to hurt you, but to remind you that love never disappears. It only changes its form. Perhaps they knew their time was running short, so they chose to leave you an inner map so that after they were gone, you'd have more than memories, you'd have a guide back to yourself. In tracing these keepsakes, you may also touch a secret, something your family kept quiet for many years. Not to deceive you, but to protect you. A truth about your origin, a silent sacrifice, a hard decision once made from a love larger than words. And the miracle is, when you discover it, you don't collapse. You feel lighter. You feel a door opening, reminding you that you are not alone on your path. Everything has been woven with love, with the faith that you were meant to do something greater in this world. An old string of beads in a wooden box, resting beside blurred black and white photos, might be the key to your entire story. Not because it holds magic, but because it connects you to continuity. Somehow, you'll feel that person guiding you not with words, but with energy, with an invisible presence shaping the choices you're about to make. You start living differently. You start loving every small thing again. Every glance, every hand you hold, every word you almost say but keep inside. You understand that each moment can be a legacy you leave for someone else. Not material, but meaning, presence, love. And in that moment, you begin to feel it clearly. They were never far away. They've simply moved to another plane where they no longer need to stand in front of you for you to feel them near. You'll find pieces of yourself in the simplest things. In the way you cook, in a laugh you repeat without knowing, in something you never learned but suddenly do so naturally. Those things didn't appear out of nowhere. They are the invisible legacy this person left in you bit by bit, day by day, over years of quiet love. One day, you might pause, look up at the sky and whisper, "I understand now." And the sky in that moment will seem to go silent to listen. And deep inside, you'll feel a small flame being lit, not bright, not blinding, but steady, warm. That flame is the essence they left you, so you can use it to light the way for those still lost and continue living a life worthy of the love once given to you without condition, like the soft glow of an old oil lamp still burning after the storm. You will be the one to keep that flame alive. And from this point on, you're no longer living just for yourself. You're living for the dreams they once held but never had time to complete. If there's an item you always carry with you not because of its value, but because of the memory and love it holds, share that story. Because maybe that small thing could carry a meaning far greater for someone else, somewhere far away, who is listening to you right now with their whole soul. Everyone who's lived through loss carries a crack in their soul, but sometimes that very crack is where the light gets in. Aries, I know you've been the strong one in the storm. You've braced yourself for things no one ever taught you how to face. You've broken down in the dark with no one there to see. And strangely, from the very place where you once fell apart, something sacred is now rising. You've begun to look at people with gentler eyes. You've started hearing what you used to miss. A sigh on the last bus home, the silence behind a stranger's eyes hiding something too heavy to name. You understand their pain not because you read about it, but because you've lived through it. You no longer see the world with eyes that need to control it. You see it through the heart, a heart that has bled, but still beats. And in a quiet moment, you realize you've been healing others without even knowing it. A word at the right time, a hand placed softly on a trembling shoulder, a hug that didn't need an explanation. You've become a safe space for those who have lost their way. Not through wisdom, but through lived pain and deep compassion. People might call that a healer. But to me, you are simply someone who knows how to love again after being shattered by it. Because only those who have stood at the edge of despair know how to help others rise without making them afraid. You don't have to say much. Your presence alone brings warmth. Aries, you thought you lost something precious, but maybe what you lost was just the shell. And what's truly sacred is being awakened inside, a light within your soul. That light doesn't burst into flames, it flickers quietly. But once lit by honest pain, it never goes out. And it doesn't just guide you, it becomes a lighthouse for others still walking through their night. I've seen Aries who seemed cold, but were really just learning how to protect themselves, in a world that wounded them too many times. I've seen people who appeared numb, but were the ones holding back tears when they saw someone else hurting. And slowly, every old wound becomes new strength. You begin to understand. You don't have to be perfect to be loved. You just need to be real. You don't need to be good enough to help someone. You just need to stay. In the moment, they need someone who won't walk away. Maybe you'll never be recognized for what you do for others, but somewhere, in a small room, someone is quietly thankful for you because you were the first person who listened without judgment. The first to believe they could come back to life again. Healing isn't magic, it's an act of love, repeated. Every day, every moment, no matter how small, And you Aries, you are already doing that without even realizing it. We weren't born to carry pain forever. We were born to transform it into something useful for others, a shared story, a moment of empathy and open embrace. Sometimes healing doesn't begin with words. It begins when you choose to stay, even when someone else wants to run. And maybe your true role in this lifetime isn't to achieve something grand, but to help someone stand up when they thought they couldn't anymore. That's when you stop searching for the meaning of life, because you become it. And you know what? The moment you step out of your own pain to walk into someone else's darkness with a warm heart, that's when the quiet guide inside you begins to awaken, softly but powerfully enough to soothe a soul that's breaking. If you've ever helped someone through pain, after falling into it yourself, share your story, because your words might be the first candle to light the way for someone still silently making their way through the night. Every family has stories that were never spoken out loud. Some truths are folded like an old handkerchief, tucked away at the bottom of a chest, sealed by generations of silent glances, and passed down not through words, but through intuition, as if your soul already knew long before you were born. And then one day, when someone important leaves your life, that veil begins to lift, not with a dramatic reveal, but through quiet fragments, a glance, a passing phrase, a faded photograph, a forgotten letter tucked in the back of a drawer, and slowly, you begin to realize something has been held back, not to deceive you, but to wait for the moment when you're strong enough to know the truth. That truth doesn't come to destroy you. It arrives like a breeze, slipping through a still and silent mind, stirring something ancient, something deep, and something liberating. Maybe it's a secret about your bloodline, a hidden branch of your family tree never spoken of. Maybe it's a sacrifice from a generation past, someone who gave up their personal freedom to protect the peace of the whole family. Or maybe a painful decision was made so that you could grow up surrounded by love, even if not in the way you always imagined. And when you face that truth, you might sit in silence for a long time, not because you're in shock, but because your soul is opening to a new landscape, where all the inner conflicts suddenly find a place to rest. You begin to revisit your childhood, those wounds you once thought had no cause, and realize they were rooted in something all along. You understand why you always felt different, why you couldn't live the way others expected, why your soul kept pulling you towards something deeper, something distant, something unnamed. And strangely, that truth doesn't break you. It brings you back to yourself. It frees you from the weight of expectations, from the tight costume you wore, just to make others comfortable. It allows you to breathe fully and freely for the very first time. Dear Aries, you were not born to be anyone's copy. You are not a mechanical continuation of tradition, rules, or beliefs. You are the fire of transformation, the one your ancestors were waiting for, to break the old cycles, to start a new flow, to live a truly awakened life. And when you welcome that long-hidden truth, you'll understand. Real love doesn't need to hide. It's spacious enough to embrace the mistakes, the shadows, even the taboos. And you, simply by being here, are living proof that none of those sacrifices were made in vain. You begin walking lighter, no longer chasing, no longer avoiding. You just walk with the quiet trust that you're moving in the right direction. No map needed, just your heart fully awake. You may choose to share that story one day, or keep it like a precious stone tucked close to your chest. Either way, that truth has now become a sacred part of the light you carry, and from the deepest place in that story, what you feel more than anything else is love. Love that transcends form, love that survives decades of silence, love that bridges impossible distances, love that outlives death, because true love doesn't need to be explained. It only needs to be continued. And you are continuing it, in the way you live, in the way you see the world, in the way you forgive, even the things no one in your family has dared to speak of. And when you place your hand on your heart, take a deep breath. You'll feel it. You are living in truth, not to become someone else, but to return to who you've always been. If you've ever had a moment when a hidden truth came to light and helped you see yourself with greater compassion, share your story, because maybe your words will open a door for someone still wandering through walls of silence, still waiting for a sign. One quiet afternoon, you're sitting alone in a room you know so well, yet it suddenly feels unfamiliar, as if you've never truly belonged there, and deep within, you begin to sense something shifting, not loud like the wind, but slow, steady, like the silent movement of stone beneath a riverbed where light finally finds a crack and begins to slip through. Your heart has been broken, truly broken, broken to the point where you thought nothing could ever be healed again. But through that very crack, a fragile light began to appear. It didn't shine brightly. It didn't come with promises. It just stood there like an old friend returning after years apart, with a look that says, "I understand, I still care." And suddenly, you realize everything that's happened, the death of someone you loved, the truths that were kept hidden, the long nights of tears, the long silences in your soul, they were all leading you to this moment, the moment when you no longer ask, why? And instead, you begin to whisper, thank you for having been loved, even if that love was quiet. Thank you for having known pain, because it opened a door you never saw before. Thank you for the moments you thought you'd fall apart, when in truth, you were just bowing your head, to hear your soul speak more clearly. The universe never left you, even when you felt alone. There were unseen hands, holding your spirit as it slipped from the edge of faith. And then, when you'd been silent long enough, when all the resistance in you finally let go, you heard it, a whisper, soft, real, close. Don't be afraid, love is still here. That moment, it's not a celebration. It's not a lightning strike of enlightenment. It's something deeply human, a sacred pause where you stand between the pieces of your past and the part of you that's ready to be born. You don't need to do anything. Just breathe and let your heart lead. You'll begin to feel something strange. The pain, instead of weakening you, makes you deeper. The things that used to shake you no longer frighten you, because now you know pain didn't come to punish you. It came to make you real. You start to live differently. No more rushing, no more comparing, no more chasing. You choose peace. You choose truth. You choose gratitude. And the people around you, you no longer see them as names or roles to judge, but as souls, learning to love and be loved, just like you. A new version of you is born, not because you became perfect, but because you became whole. You're no longer trying to be the light. You're embracing your shadows too, as part of something sacred. And then, almost quietly, you find yourself forgiving those who hurt you and even yourself. You understand now. It was all part of the learning, and everyone's learning, even you. One morning, you open the window, the sky is gray, but it's still beautiful. You hear the rain fall and feel no sadness. You catch someone's gaze and smile for no reason at all. And in that moment, you know, I've come back, but I'm not who I used to be. Aries, you didn't just survive a loss, you were reborn through it. Like green shoots rising from ash, like the sun after a storm. Like music returning, after a long, aching silence. And then, on some quiet evening, when your heart is still, you'll whisper to yourself with a voice that's honest, human, and full of soul. Thank you, God, for that death, because it was that death that gave you this life, a life you've always deserved, but never dared to fully receive. Thank you for listening with your whole heart. May the light you've just found continue to guide your every step forward, with peace, with fullness, and with a love that never dies, between souls.